Our next presentation is on GIS applications or GIS and its applications. What GIS seeks to do or seeks to address the application of GIS and in its entirety. With that, we have a resource person well versed in the industry over a decade, but has really traveled far and wide as far as GIS is concerned. He's an experienced senior geospatial solution expert who has demonstrated a history of geospatial solutions and implemented it in a number of countries. He has a lot of skills in translating customer needs, business goals, and requirements to workable and state-of-the-art long-term solutions with huge ROI. His expertise spans across the web and an enterprise geospatial technology, spatial data management, spatial analysis, development of ODKs, and other spatial data collection tools, and location-based services. That includes open source as well. His proficiency in geographic information system, data management, and spatial analysis has successfully led cross-functional teams in the delivery of various geospatial solutions in the electric utility, agriculture, telecom, built environment, and local government industries. He holds a postgraduate degree in Management Information System from the Coventry University, UK, a Bachelor of Science degree in Geomatic Engineering from Kyei University, and a number of certifications. Ladies and gentlemen, our resource person to speak to us on GIS applications is none other than Richmond Kyei-Baffour, and he is also the Technical Director for AccuGeospatia. Richmond, over.
All right, thank you very much, Evans, and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and then also good evening to cherished listeners and participants on this special broadcast on our GISDay celebration with a team empowering Ghana's green economy through the application of GIS. Thank you once again. Right. As you rightly said, I'm Richmond Kyei-Baffour, and I work with AccuGeospatiia. A lot of the things he said are actually on paper. But I must say that when it comes to the technology, when it comes to the industry, we are just a part of it, and we seek to do our best and provide the necessary quota to make sure that the industry actually realizes all the expected goals. Most especially, to begin with my presentation, I'm here for a simple thing, basically to tell you the application of GIS and then also how to get started. It's a simple task, and I believe we'll just kick started. Right, so just indulge me to share my screen. Then we can get started. All right, I believe my screen is in view. Right. So application of GIS, or the use of GIS related tools to actually realize the goal of Ghana's green economy. GIS is not the only tool you can use to realize a green economy or to contribute to the green economy. However, it's a vehicle in achieving that particular objective. So here this morning or this afternoon, or even depending on where you are joining us from, we'll be looking at my other presenters, the MC, and the other colleagues have mentioned GIS, GIS, GIS. What exactly is GIS? It is a technology. Is it a tool? Is it a workflow? Or is it just an acronym or an abbreviation? Right. So we look at GIS and look at application and how to get started. Right. Now, GIS, as the name implies, it's basically an abbreviation, which is GIS, and it stands for Geographic Information System. There are various schools of thoughts when it comes to the definition of GIS, but here today, we are going to be looking at three of them. And also map all sort of data and then create insight from that data to help make decisions. Now, the other school of thought also indicates that GIS connects data to a map, integrating location data. That is where things are, with all types of descriptive information, which we term as the attribute information or the metadata. That is information about the information you have collected, right? And this information is basically what things are like, right? And it provides the foundation for mapping and analyzing the data, and also brings to insight the science and almost every kind of activity within a particular space, whether an industry, whether a sector. The third school of thought also say GIS helps to understand patterns, relationships, and then also helps us to understand our geographic context, right? But as we can all see, it's the underlying factor. GIS helps us to improve communication, that is trying to engage our spatial data and then also collaborate with the data. And then also helps with work efficiency and then management. And most of all, to help us to make well-informed decisions. Right. So basically, these are some of the definitions that we can think of. Right. So let's look at what GIS can be used for. So we said that GIS provides some sort of connection to communicate your spatial ideas, bring the context in your GIS or geographic information. Here, it provides an open platform for collaboration, which is key, because without communicating your data, communicating the insight into the data, it's easy to become GIS. All right, and then also our innovations. Now, GIS cut across these application of GIS or geospatial technology cut across these industries. So we have startups of all forms using GIS. We have schools using GIS. We have government and non-governmental organizations using GIS. We have citizens. We'll be looking at some of the application areas using GIS. We have utility companies. We have the telcos, we have businesses also using GIS. Now, all these are made, all the objectives of these sectors or industries are realized and communicated using the power of GIS, right? Basically, leveraging your data that is shared amongst the various business units within your organization, right? So we can look at managing natural resource. So in the management of natural resource, for instance, my other presenter indicated that you can use GIS for agric. So here we are looking at precision agriculture. So you can map the location of your farms. You can look at the location and also trace the produce that are coming from the farms through the application of GIS. We also have marine protection planning. So you can actually plan the marine environment, and you can even chart the seed beds and the river beds of all the various water bodies using the power of GIS. We can also look at small-scale mining, allocation of mining leases, where mining ought to be conducted, where mining ought not to be conducted. We looked at protected areas. We looked at forest areas. We looked at river bodies. So with the power of GIS, you can actually delineate areas where these mining activities ought to, or mining operation ought to be taken or not. We can look at planting frequency, analyzing the frequency of a particular plant or a particular produce. We can look at agricultural modeling. We can look at forest management. We can look at ocean modeling. So all these areas can, you can apply geospatial technology in these areas when it comes to natural resource. Another application area is environmental monitoring and assessment. Right, so GIS can be used to monitor air quality. Noise modeling is also another key area. The amount of, or the distribution of even a particular gas. It can be a greenhouse gas, it can be oxygen, it can be forest carbon reserves within the forest areas. We can look at the areas like the sea level, the rise in sea levels. Recently, we had in Ghana, we had issues of the river, the shores or the river shores actually exceeding or overflowing 8 bands, and there was a need for sea defense to be constructed and all that. With the power of GIS, you can actually look at the rate of movement of these shores and then be able to predict and then provide the necessary remediation solution using GIS. Pollution modeling, groundwater changes. These are all application areas where GIS can be employed or geospatial technology can be employed. We looked at developing energy resources, and here there are a lot of them, especially when it comes to those of us in Africa where we experience 360 days of sun. So we can look at harnessing solar and wind energy, and you can use GIS to predict where these solar farms can be placed, where wind turbines can be constructed, to be able to harness our natural resource to produce energy, to augment what we currently have, be it an energy mix or the hydro. We can look at reservoir modeling of all forms. We can look at geological interpretation, offshore production, when it comes to oil and other natural resources within the offshore space, right? We can also look at managing land information, and here it's one of major issues when it comes to acquisition of land, especially in our sub-region. So we can look at land-based mapping, mapping the various lands, looking at the various levels of land ownership. We recently had an opportunity to have national address system, and that was made, the realization was made using application of GIS or geospatial technology. Property appraisal, tax assessments, if you want to collect taxes, be it property taxes, be it taxes that can be, or revenue that can be accrued from sighting of these signposts you see all around in town. You can use GIS to actually give you an idea of how much needs to be collected, how many of these property that are out there, how many of these signages that are out there, so that you can harness the power of GIS to be able to rake in revenue and also improve your return on whatever investment you put into that technology. Parcel administration, we've talked about that. We also looked at property management of all forms. So businesses like the banks or the insurance companies, they want to know which buildings or which properties that they can insure, or even if they have insured them, where are the locations of these properties? How can you even value these properties based on location or where these properties are sited? It's all made possible by the application of GIS. Right, we looked at urban and regional planning. So we are talking about zoning, land use, creating of land use maps, urban designs, redevelopment, city modeling. Now, the city of Accra has developed over the years. If you look at even since independence. So there is a need for us to do what we call spatial planning, city remodeling, to suit what is prevailing currently. So in terms of traffic management, in terms of commuting, managing commuting or commuters from and within the various business districts of a city. So we can look at new planning or new town planning, so redevelopment. These are all made possible using the application of GIS. Transportation, I've spoken about it briefly. So we can look at rail transport, we can look at vehicular transport, traffic modeling, routing, alternate routing. We can also look at the airspace, where you use GIS to manage air traffic, to even manage the tarmacs where these aircrafts land, right? So all these are areas of application of GIS. You can look at vessel, ship, tracking of ship or vessels. These are all made possible using application of GIS. Of course, almighty utility and then the telco space. So here we can look at managing the various utility assets, be it the network. So for instance, here we want to come home a utility company like Ghana Water or the electricity company of Ghana. All their assets, so their meters, their lines can all be mapped, and then also help them collect revenue, because if you know where your assets are, if you know where your customers are, then you'll be advantaged in terms of revenue mobilization and collection. So we can also look at smart metering, where you do not actually have to attend physically to the meter, by just developing a GIS or geospatial application to help you do that. We looked at encroachment, vegetation encroachment, where most of the utilities assets, like for instance, Ghana Grid Company, where you have a lot of the grid lines being tampered with as a result of encroachment. People are farming around these grid lines, and then during the harmattan, they burn their farms in order to get foliage. So in the course of that activity, these assets belonging to the utility companies are also affected. With the power of GIS, you can actually stimulate and put these assets as a way of spatial data on a map, be able to tell which areas are your assets located. And then you can also look at the conditions of this asset using GIS, right? Building and campus management. These are also space management, transition station designs, looking at proposed buildings, building monitoring, high-rise building monitorings are all made possible by the application of GIS, right? Business analytics, that is one of the key areas where application of GIS is key. So here we are looking at a typical example. If you are a company that is interested in managing internet asset like fiber cables, which you call the FTTH, right? So you need to be able to know where these assets are, which areas you are serving these customers, which customers truly need these applications in terms of the services that we are providing, which of your proposed customers do not need them, so that you do not just put in investment and do not get return. Real estate company, land valuation, insurance are some of these areas where GIS can be applied, right? The next thing is understanding human health. That is one area that GIS can be employed. We all know of the notable COVID-19 dashboard, that is the Johns Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard during the unfortunate pandemic, COVID-19, 2019, 2020 era, where we were plagued with that unfortunate epidemic. So we're able to actually identify cases, right? COVID-19 cases with the application of GIS. Ebola is one of such cases, right? So on the screen, we have response and then disease maps, okay? using application of GIS, we're able to tell which areas are badly hit, which areas are the endemic areas. And we can also look at the spread of a particular disease. For instance, COVID-19 or Ebola cases, right? So you can create heat maps, you can create predictive maps to be able to predict the rate of spread of this disease and be able to curb them with the application of GIS. Even malnutrition. So you can map areas or locations where there is malnutrition and then be able to provide a solution to mitigate that as well. Child protection and child maltreatment. You can also use the application of GIS or geospatial technology to be able to provide a remediation solution. That public safe trade, you can create location, okay, and then also be able to marry these mitigation solutions. So, for instance, if there is fire, be able to tell the various locations of fire hydrant and vis-a-vis the locations of these fire tender or fire stations, be able to tell that in case of fire, how early can you or can the fire location to be able to we have been as an provider with security services to be able to assist fight crime even now. Right. So these are some of the applications areas. So we have preparing for and responding to disaster. So typical example here is the Akosombo dam spillage, the devastation that it caused. A lot of GIS applications were used to be able to tell areas that were inundated with the floods, areas that you would need those affected or victims to be evacuated to, and then also plan resettlement for the affected, right? If you go to the European countries, we have issues like typhoons and then also hurricanes that can easily be mapped using GIS and also forecast these unfortunate events, be able to mitigate them, provide the various mitigating solution to these events or catastrophe. So we also have cartography. A lot of us who have done some level of map, we align with this strange word cartography, where you create paper maps, where you create maps and then share the maps to communicate an event or to communicate and also collaborate with people. So cartography is one of the application areas where geospatial technology or GIS can be applied. And we can have national mapping, which my colleague Marian spoke about. We can have topographic mapping. We can have aeronautical mapping, right? We can also have conservation, right, which we spoke about. All these are made possible using the application of GIS. And now we have what you call storytelling with GIS. So our friends in the media space, the journalists, can also tell success stories using GIS. And a lot of our students that we are actually engaging them on a spatial thinking campaign tell stories using GIS or the application of GIS. Of course, GIS is impossible without data. So one of the application area for this technology is the open data and citizen engagement. So when you collect the data, where does the data go? You need to make sure citizens are engaging with the technology, right? So these are some of the application areas you can think of. Now, how do we get started? Getting started for us as Esri partners, we use a platform which we call the AccuGIS platform. Now, AccuGIS platform basically is a system and a technology that is used for mapping and then creating geographic information products in your geospatial data. So there's a simple architecture. We have a desktop, we have the mobile, we have the web, and then we also have the online, right? So basically, the system helps you to collect data, bring in data, manage those who are collecting the data and those who use the data, which you call your GIS workforce. All right, so the system manages these individuals, providing the various security level, providing the various platforms to share the data and make insight into the data. What can you do with the platform? First of all, data. You need to work with your data, your institution data. So this data forms the fundamentals for your GIS or geospatial technology. So your data is key. The next thing is to make maps out of your data. And then the third option is to look at analyzing your data, creating analytics in your data, and then also information product from your data. Then after that is done, you share your data, collaborate with your data within your business units, right? So these are some of ways by which GIS can be applied. And to get started, simply to get onto our platform and use one of Esri's technology or geospatial technology. In this case, you can look at the AccuGeos platform. And these are some of the key customers that we have satisfied over the years with the application of our technology, specifically the geospatial technology. Thank you very much for your time. And if there are questions, we can pick them at this juncture. Over to you, Evans.
Thank you so much, Richmond Kyei-Baffour, for that insightful presentation. Very, very, very detailed.